going to call this Utility Committee to order, January 24th. Roll call, please.
Walther,
Here.
Barstow,
Here.
Hampshire,
Here.
And the Pledge of Allegiance.
We're out of order.
Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Chris, thanks for putting everything together as usual.
Yes, sir.
And looking forward to another year of Utility Committee, of course.
Where else would you rather be?
Where else would we be?
The best committee,
It is the best.
as Mr. Chirac is fond of saying.
Oh, yeah. Well, starting with just an appropriate one to start with, the Biosolids Program.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit before, so we currently contract with AgriSludge to handle our Biosolids program, everything after the press. So after we dry it and store it, do the sampling, AgriSludge does the hauling to the field, they coordinate with the farmer, do the land application, fill out the agronomic worksheet, and then return all of that to us for our EPA reporting. So what I wanted to, last time me and Mr. Walters were talking, we talked about the discussion that we used to do this in-house, then we contracted it out because of the skill sets that we lost. And then it's a good time now to have a conversation about future plans for that program. I did print out, there's 3 purchase orders stapled together in your packet, 2019, 2020, and 2021. I highlighted in yellow what we spent on the AgriSludge program. The number in blue has stayed the same the whole time. That is the purchase order amount. The reason it's higher is in case we get a load of product that doesn't meet the sampling standards. We would have to take that to the landfill, and that costs more than the land application process. So. But you can see in 2019, we spent a little over $21,000. Then we got the new press, which produces a slightly drier product, which costs less to haul and apply. So in 2020, we spent $18,000, and last year we spent a little over $17,000. That is 2 applications, one in the spring, one in the fall, and that covers all of the product that we make during the course of the year. There are valid points on both sides of staying with the contract or trying to bring this back in-house. My personal opinion would be to stay with the contractor. The equipment costs and the man hours that it would take to bring this back in-house, I think the benefit we get from the contractor doing that outweighs what it would cost us to bring it back in-house. Some of the things, just to remind people, AgriSludge does all of this in about 2 days. They come in, they get it all, they get it to the field, they go in whenever the farmer's ready for it, so they'll do it on Saturday, they'll do it at night, which we have done in the past. All of that stuff costs overtime for us. It takes us 3 weeks in hauling alone to get the product to the field because of our smaller truck. And then we have to, whenever it's right for the farmer and the weather, then we have to go up and apply it. The other thing that I wanted to mention real quick that kind of weighs into my decision, or my opinion, is when we switched to the new press, we don't use nearly as much polymer as we used to. The savings in polymer is about $20,000. So the way I kind of look at this is it's a net zero to have the contractor continue to do all of the work, and we can continue to do maintenance and plant operations. So that's my position.
Okay. First, I guess I would ask the committee, are there any questions or any concerns with staying with this program?
No, I think it's worked out okay. And I just want to say that, Chris, I'm going to start calling you Martha Stewart because our product is becoming lighter and fluffier. as we go along.
Wasn't sure where you were going, but I'll take it there.
I
I'll
knew
take
something
that.
taking, I knew it was gonna be there.
It-
Careful, you might get a Martha Stewart calendar.
Oh, he is in a
Careful.
calendar, that's.
I'm on a calendar roll here. But no, I think that, I was on council when we first started doing this. We built the building. I can remember back in those days when we built the building when Nate was here. And I just think that, I remember when we first started, we had somebody in-house who knew how to do this, and I think we even got some of the farmers to come and actually pick up some of their product and take it on their own if they could, and that just saved us a lot of time. I think some of the farmers did come and pick things up, as I recall.
I think the very beginning, not the farmers that we're using now.
No.
I think the Fravel farm came and picked up a couple loads on their own.
I'm saying it was all the time, but there was some of that workload the farmers did themselves, because they just saw it as a huge benefit. But now that we don't have that type of knowledge anymore in the department, then we're working on weekends and nights, and the farmers they need it when they need it. They're not gonna wait.
It's a very finicky timeline.
So I'm fine with keeping it the way it is.
The ability to respond immediately also helps us get around concerns about weather. You know, it can't be raining when you're applying it.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I think there's a forecast of a quarter of an inch within the next 48 hours, and you gotta stop. And so balancing those two things is tricky.
Well, and I think the other thing too is all we need is to have some sort of issue in the utility department where you need all hands on deck to fix something or keep generators running, because for some reason we've had some sort of problem, and then, oh no, it's time to go spread or, deliver product, so.
Jude, any concerns or comments?
My only question would be, what's this closed date on here? Because it's April and 1, and,
We're probably gonna blame that
I just wondered.
on accounting, that's accounting issues.
Yeah, that would be when we close the PO, so
That's
the
Jamie's.
Oh.
next year in April, we sat down and said, we don't need that PO open anymore, and so we closed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's definitely Jamie's fault.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
No,
We're the utility committee, we can blame Jamie. Okay, well, I have a couple comments. So, as we continue to develop properties in this area, south of here, west of here, east of here, north of here, it may get harder and harder to do this process. Just to find someplace to take it
Very much so.
is obviously a concern. So I think we should take advantage of this as long as we have a place to take it. And until that time, take advantage of the savings, because this is still savings. If I remember correctly, it was a $50,000 cost to haul it to the dump.
Yes, sir.
And our goal when Nate was here was to try to save that money, and I think we had numbers where he was buying equipment and running it himself, and we were gonna save, $30,000-$40,000 out of that $50,000. So I think we should all acknowledge that we're still doing pretty good here. $30,000 in savings over that $50,000 cost, if I remember correctly.
Correct,
was the
that
cost.
is what it is. And you also get the beneficial use of the nutrients locally
Right,
as well.
right. So I think that's one of the things I would bring up. I think it's still worthwhile learning how to do it and knowing how. If there's anybody that wants to learn how it's done, I mean, no reason why we wouldn't be a part of that.
Right.
The second question I would have for you, any complaints about this contractor? For instance, should we look at another contractor to provide this service?
So I have zero complaints about this contractor. He actually came unofficially recommended from Betsy Van Wormer, who is the EPA rep that runs the Biosolids Program.
I'm very familiar with AgriSled. I would hope they would have no complaints or issues, but I wanted to see if you had any.
No, it is about the easiest process. I call Tom up and he runs with it. It's
Okay.
very simple, very good service.
And then last but not least, is there anything, and again, this is just, trying to save as many dollars as we can, is there anything we can do to lower the cost? Is there any part of this that if we were able to take off of their hands and maybe, and again, I'm not being greedy, but if we could take $5,000 off that
Right.
cost, that's a nice savings.
Right. So I remember when we were negotiating the contract and I was initially talking with Tom, it is the expense of him bringing his equipment out here for doing the application process. He was not interested in signing a contract where he either did one half or the other, where we hauled and he did the application or vice versa.
Okay.
The combination of the two makes it economical for him.
Got it. Well, it's a great program. I think like you said, it's a valuable product for our farmers to utilize, and we're saving money, so it's all a win-win-win. Do you need a motion or anything from anybody?
I do not. We'll just continue under the contract or whatever. It was just, seemed like a good time for the conversation, so
Okay,
just make sure we're all
I'm
on the same
certainly-
page.
certainly happy that it's working out.
Very much is. One more thing, Mr. Walter, to your point about the space being limited, it is, the more development you have, the less land you have to put this on. But another service that he provides is finding fields and getting them certified for us as well. So hopefully that will extend, you know, the inevitable. So.
At least through our tenure here. Okay, excellent. All right, next one is the utility service tax.
Yes, sir. So, we talked a little bit about this last year. The next part of the packet is paper clipped together. The top portion is the updated job description for this position. The second stapled, packet is the information that was presented to the utility committee last year when we had the conversation, justifying the, hourly need for the position. So Ms. Hampshire, I wanted to make sure that was in there, because you haven't had a chance to see this before, I don't think. But where we're at in this process, so we've gone through in the budget and added the funding for the position. We've gone to the PBR with the job description and got approval from them. We've met with the union and had zero conflicts from them. So now we're at the point where the last step would be to create the position via ordinance through council. I do know that there are conversations between the finance committee looking at positions and trying to find the best way to add staffing to the city. But the caveat to that being that this would all come out of the enterprise fund. And so, in my opinion, is a slightly separate conversation than the rest of the positions. But what I'm kind of hoping for here would be a recommendation from the committee. And if that's where we land, then I would present the ordinance to council at the next meeting to start the 3 readings for that. I don't know, Ms. Hampshire, we've never talked about it before. I don't know if you have any questions about the position, or I can give you a brief overview on what my plan is for it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking this person would be the direct contact with the customers. There's a lot of entry-level work that right now we have our systems team stop the maintenance that they're working on and go out and check for leaking toilets, read the water meters, you know, some of the simple things that we do with the public. This position, being entry level, would have no license requirements. It is equal to our bottom pay scale in the utility department, and they would come in and do those things. When they're not doing service orders, they would help with the filing and we have a system called a Dropbox system that we use for curb box locations, and we take all of the hand-drawn sketches of where people's water lines and shut-off valves are in their yards from the 30s all the way up until now, and try and scan them and put them into a searchable database for the crew when they're on call. If someone has a leak at 3 in the morning, it's nice to know where the curb box is and not to go find it. That program would get picked up by them. And then the other thing they would do is basically be labor for every aspect of the department. So if they're not doing service orders and there's a pump that needs moved at the plants, we could have them come out and help with that. At a water leak, they could run to the hardware store, get materials, that kind of thing. That gives everybody their foot in the door and a view of different aspects of the department. If they were interested, they could go further, maybe get a license and wait for a position to open up in the operator team or the systems team, kind of slide over from there. I'm hopeful that we will get somebody who down the road can be trained well enough to be included in the on-call rotation, so that everybody is 7 weeks before they go on call again as opposed to 6. But that is discretionary. If we get somebody in who's really good at this entry-level stuff, but I don't want running the drinking water system on a Saturday by themselves, then they just won't make it to the on-call rotation.
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Jude, any questions?
No, looks pretty good on here.
Todd, any concerns or questions?
Well, yeah, just a concern. So I understand this is an enterprise fund, and it doesn't affect the general fund, we'll call it budget. But I guess I just want to point out that you wanted to increase this when the customer total got to 3,500, and now we have 3,534. When did we cross the 3,500 mark?
3,500 mark happened last year, and that number was more, historic. My predecessor had set that number for when he wanted to do this.
I'm just saying, if that's in the justification, so.
Yeah, that happened last year.
My question would be, why didn't you then ask to have this, it was budgeted for starting in '25, but if we already hit the benchmark last year, why did we ask to have it put into the '22 budget?
So I did. When we did the budget cycle this year is when I moved it from the '25 forecast that came from the existing forecast.
Okay.
Moved it up
This-
to
okay, I
2022.
see, this justification piece is old.
Right.
Staffing concerns
So
was in May.
you're correct. That first paragraph, it's the same one that I presented last year, and that first paragraph
Okay.
ends with, this is in 2025, but I think it would be benefit to move to 2022. Since this
No,
staffing
I-
concern came out,
okay,
we
I-
did the budget, and
I'm sorry, I remember this now.
I made that move.
I remember this,
Yeah.
we were talking about budget, so.
I probably should have made a more modern one. I just reprinted the same one I did last time.
Okay.
I would ask the committee, any concerns with making a recommendation on this prior to the finance committee meeting?
Well, I'd say, I mean, we're gonna have a finance committee meeting on Wednesday,
Right.
but that discussion is concerning police staffing, which comes out of general fund.
My understanding was that the staffing in general was gonna be looked at in kind of that balancing between what can you do for the police side and what we've been asked for a utility person, but we've also been asked for, I believe now, 2 people in maintenance in the street department. And then we've also, obviously we have an HR contract that we're looking at and so forth. Is this something that we want to, have on the table as far as the finance committee looks at before we make any recommendations?
Well, the agenda is just for the police
Is it
staff.
just for the
It's
police?
just police
Okay.
staffing, but that was, I mean, the way I looked at it, we had the additional staffing in the service department, I believe we had budgeted for, so the discussion on police staffing is going to be things that are not necessarily in the budget. So this is gonna be a look at, staffing levels, and potentially pay scale, things like that, just in the police department. Now, that's not to say that at some point, we're not gonna have a discussion.
Circle back to-
It's gonna have to expand, because that's I call it a push me, pull you. I mean, we say, okay, we're gonna hire, 10 more people in the service department. That's obviously not what we're looking at, but that means that there'll be no police officers hired until, 2029 or something. I'm just sort of making things outrageous to show that they're just notional. So yes, but if council wants the finance committee to relook at budget, look at staffing items that have already been budgeted, then that would be a little different. Certainly, in terms of the meeting, my view is gonna be, we're gonna listen to all the ideas that the committee may have, and then bring those back to council, so that could be that could take any shape of any number of things.
Well, that's exactly what I'm getting to, Todd, was if, for instance, let's say hypothetically, we say we're absolutely in favor of this, and then one of the ideas comes back from the finance committee, and maybe it's this meeting, maybe it's the next meeting, whatever the case may be, or it's a series of meetings, and that idea comes back and says, well, we can do the police items, whatever that is, whatever the idea is, but we can't do these 2 staffing items. I'm just trying to figure out if in a process here, to make a recommendation for this prior, is it premature to make a recommendation for this prior to that discussion being fully vetted?
I don't think so, because the money pots are totally different.
Then I agree with you.
So-
That's where I was gonna head to next,
Right.
was I'm comfortable with this being a separate issue from all the other ones that might be thrown into the pot and stirred.
Right, I call it the general fund budget. That's really not correct, but just to differentiate it
Okay.
from Chris's budget, that includes the people who work in this building, that includes service department, parks, and the police department. So I don't know how the discussion is gonna go on the finance committee. We'll see.
I understand fully, and fortunately, we have our finance committee, expert right here. So that's why I just wanted to make sure you were comfortable if we did make a motion on this, that it wasn't premature.
I'm fine. Chris put it in his budget. I realize that now, and I remember that discussion, and I think I remember the discussion too about this being in the enterprise fund budget, and we don't have to worry about the general fund budget, for lack of a better term. Thanks, Andy.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Chris, I do have one question on your special requirements, the CDL license. You say may in here. Is that something that you're going to push for? Reason why I'm asking this is that, when the emergency hits and you've got 2 or 3 things going on in one or 2 different directions, it's always helpful to have somebody who has a CDL.
It is, so that push for would be, no. Offer, yes. So that line is on all of our job descriptions, both public service and utility department. Utilities has 1 truck that requires a CDL, and currently we have 2 employees that have the CDL. So I think that's more where the may comes into. But to make it mandatory, the answer would be no. If the person had an interest, which I have some employees now that have an interest, we would definitely encourage them to get the CDL. I think the training costs have gone through the roof recently. Before, when it was just a couple $100, we would pay for the training and the exam. The training at this point is like $6,000, I think, from what I heard. It has changed dramatically last year. So we would pay for the exam if somebody was interested in that, because it would give us benefit, just like you're saying. But I don't think mandatory for this level of pay, I don't think it would work.
Well, I would just throw out a word of caution to paying for anybody to go get their CDL, because there's gonna be such an enormous demand for CDL drivers here in the very near future that you'd probably lose every one of them.
I agree with that. I believe there is some conversations on that kind of fear going on in-house right now.
You will.
Yeah.
So, okay.
They'll be worth their weight in gold.
They will be worth their weight in gold and plus the truck. So,
Right,
okay.
right.
So I'm gonna entertain a motion for Chris to move forward with advertising utility service tech.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Walter?
Yes?
Barstow?
Yes.
Hampshire?
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
Please keep us updated on when you put it out for advertisement. There may be some people I know that might be very interested in talking with you
Oh,
about
yeah, I
this
definitely
position.
will. So my plan at this point will be the next Monday, the next council meeting will be the first reading. So we're looking at the first reading in March. If everything goes smooth, and I will,
3rd reading at the first meeting.
the 3rd reading at the first meeting in March, yes. If everything goes through well, then I will advertise it that weekend. So
Great.
beginning of March is what we're hoping for.
All right. Next item on your list is the WRF update. How are we doing with our pumps?
We are doing pretty well. The amount of DO increase that we're seeing is exactly what we were hoping to see from the very beginning. We still had a thick layer of foam that had developed on top of our oxidation ditch. Increasing the DO level did reduce that foam. It made it a lot lighter, and in the center ring where these aspirators are, it all but disappeared. We had Corps come out today and physically remove the foam from the top of the ditch with their vac truck. From the reading that I've done, some of the webinars I've seen about this kind of problem, it's not uncommon to have to do it 2 or 3 times as the particellotin solution comes back up again. But we're very optimistic about where we are at. The last parameter that we were having difficulty meeting at the wastewater plant was copper. We were using a defoaming agent at that point because we didn't have the equipment. That messes with the settlability, which is the only way to get the copper out.
Yep.
So lo and behold, we quit putting the defoamer in, and now the copper is back where it should be. So there's still some fine tuning to do on the programming. We're still waiting on the large jet mixer pumps to come in from back order. But as of right now, it resembles a wastewater plant again, which is just a great feeling for us out there in the field.
Great. Any questions from the committee? No? Chris, I just wanted to ask real quick, as far as a final budget on this, or a final accounting, I guess, from what we had as for our long-term loan versus what we thought it was gonna be, Can we get those numbers from you?
Absolutely.
I think it would be, and actually, I would suggest that it be shared with council, but certainly for the utility committee.
Absolutely.
I'd have an interest in knowing that.
I can just include that in my report for council, if that would work.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay, yep, I will do that. Give everybody an update. There's a $5,000 retainage that we're holding for the very end of all this stuff, but yeah, I can definitely do
Close
that.
enough.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Great. Okay. Upcoming CIP.
So this was more of a, so the next sheet in your packet is the page out of the budget book for sewer and water CIP projects. Everything that's highlighted in blue is happening this year. So we are about to have a very, very busy year coming down the pike. I did want to point out, you'll see Jefferson Street water projects highlighted in yellow. That's because this page was put into the budget book before we increased the dollar amount. So I wanted to let you know that dollar amount has been increased. It is $625 and not the $550 that's shown here to cover the CA.
Yeah, exactly. Construction administration.
Yeah, yep, so that was that catch. So the only reason it's different is just to point out that number is not right. We did get that fixed. But as we go through some of the immediate projects that I wanted to point out, give you an update on the timelines for the State Route 310 interconnect. That bid was accepted by council already. We sent the contract documents over to the contractor to be signed, and they had a COVID outbreak. So it should be coming back this week from them. As soon as the documents come back from them, we'll set up a pre-construction meeting, and we will go on that project as soon as they are ready to dig. Once that project is in, the service area swap that was negotiated as part of the agreement between us and Southwest Licking will take effect, and we'll be able to put that project behind us. So that's coming. Jefferson Street Waterline Project, we did have a pre-construction meeting January 20th. The contractor is ready to go. He anticipates maybe the second week of February, starting to bring his equipment down here and getting set up to begin the project. He's hoping to be done by mid-May. We've told him they have to be done by June, and that was to give us a whole month of contingency before the street fair shows up. So timeline-wise, before we put a shovel in the ground, we're moving along well, and we'll carry through with that project. I do anticipate this week I'm going to put together some type of a Facebook post to let people know that Jefferson Street will be accessible, but it will be congested with construction equipment, road plates, all that kind of stuff. We're gonna have Jess get a hold of the bus barn and the fire department, let everybody know that they can get in there, but if they can't avoid it, they probably want to. And then the last thing we're gonna do is put letters on each individual door of the residents that get their water from this water main to let them know the project's coming, and that there may be unexpected interruptions, you know, if we hit a line unexpectedly or whatever. Just to try and get as much notice out there as we can, because Jefferson Street is gonna be a mess for 3-4 months while we're doing this. As we move on, another project that's coming up quick is the 2-inch water line project. That is replacing the 2- and 4-inch water lines in the Denison, Poplar, and Willow area. They all dead end, and so we're gonna connect them from Main Street to Township, upsize them to 6 inches so that the hydrants have proper flow on them. That design is nearing complete. I expect the design to be done next month, and then we'll be ready to come to council to request permission to advertise for bids. The construction part of that is budgeted for this year. So we're planning on doing that this summer as well. And then finally, the other big one that's going on this year is the design of the Creek Road Lift Station project. That is the project that's fully funded from ARPA funds, the $1.6 million. The RFQ went out, and we ranked the firms, and we're in the closing on the end of the negotiations between Verdantis, which used to be Hall. They were ranked number 1. So once we get all their numbers together, we sit down and we see if the negotiation will work. We'll either be bringing that to council for acceptance, or if the negotiation will not work, we'll move on to the number 2 firm, which was Strand, and start the process all over again. But I would anticipate within the next 2 months having a proposal to council for acceptance. The design will take all of this year, and the construction will happen all of next year, which leaves us 1 buffer year for the federal requirements to spend the money in case we run into problems. The those are the big ones. As you can see, there are also a bunch of little ones. There's a new truck in the budget. There's a iron filter at the water plant, has a leak in the bottom of it. So we have to take it completely offline, completely drain it, all the media out. Hopefully we can weld the leak and then rebuild it. Painting the water plants, upgrading the 10-year-old SCADA computers, that kind of stuff. All in the budget, all hopefully happening this year.
Okay. Committee, have any questions on this?
I know.
Jude? On the sewer lining project,
Yes.
refresh my memory, wasn't that a matching project where it was 250 and 250? Wasn't there a possibility to get grants for that?
Yes, so what we've got right now is 250 in from the city and 250 from HB 168. We did receive 250 from there. We also applied to OPWC for 250 more. And the way their rules are is we can use our 250 matching.
Match twice?
To both of them.
Right.
So we'll put 250 in, and ideally, we get 500 from outside sources.
So when we look at the budget, not I probably asked this before, but when we look at the budget and it's 500,000 for
Yes,
the
sir.
budget, how is that our 250 and we're encumbering the excess or the outside 250?
So this is our 250 and the HB 168 250 that we already received.
Okay.
Should we receive the money from OPWC, we'll have to do a supplemental to account for that as well. But since we don't know what their answer is, it wasn't included in the budget.
Okay. Okay, I've got one other, thank you. I've got one other quick question on the 2-inch water line replacement, and really with any of these, it's probably a good idea to look ahead to your suppliers for valves and hydrants. They are non-existent.
They are non-existent, yes, sir.
So before we get too far down that line, and maybe this is one we just have the plans on the shelf because we can't get parts. I just wanted to make that mention that I would hope that the engineers that are doing your design are identifying those materials
Yeah.
before we put something on there that we can't get.
Right. So those materials are, they're extremely difficult to get, different pipe sizes. 8 and 6 inch pipes are not that hard to get, but 12 and up, it's just gone. It's just
Hydrants,
gone.
you can't find hydrants anywhere,
And if you can, they have doubled their price.
and they have, exactly.
yes.
So
So I
are we
think
able to
when we-
reuse on this? I mean, being it's a 2-inch line, or is it a 6-inch hydrant, or is it
Yes.
a 2-inch?
We have
So
one
we're not-
hydrant we can reuse. We have one hydrant that is almost inoperable as it is now, so it needs to be replaced. It's way
Okay.
too old.
Okay,
But yeah, so what we're really gonna see that is when we go out to bid. If we go out to bid for the contractor and they come back with crazy numbers, or we get no bids because material's not available, at that point, we definitely would not, if the number's coming in at 800,000, we would just set this on the shelf. We can still function as we are now.
Okay.
And try again next year, hope that materials come down.
gotcha. Okay, any other comments or questions or anything? All right, let's go on to the strontium, one of my favorite topics.
Strontium, I believe, used to be your favorite topic, but it has come back.
Of course it
So-
has. Of course it-
So
It's
after-
probably due to COVID.
It's gotta be due to COVID. After we cleaned, you may recall, Mr. Barstow, Ms. Hampshire, I don't know if we talked about an open council or not, but there's a concentration of an isotope called strontium that we get in our softener backwash water. There's a little bit, it naturally occurs in the well water. It gets concentrated in our softeners. When we rinse the softeners out, that water has to go somewhere. So we have a wastewater permit at our water plant 2 over on Refugee Road. And we have to add clean water to our rinse water to dilute the concentration down enough to meet our permit. And even with that, for reasons that I cannot figure out yet, 1 month will be completely within our permit limit. The next month will be 3 times what we had the month before. Nothing changes. We've sampled our raw water every step of the way. It's the same numbers every time except what rinses out of these softeners, which is it's very frustrating. The EPA, we've tried to work with them. They have a compliance assistance department. Nobody has any answer on what to do. The reason it's a problem for us, usually it gets, the wastewater, the softener rinse gets added to the wastewater collection system, which has a lot of water in it that dilutes the strontium level and to a point that nobody cares by the time it gets to the plant. At water plant 2, there isn't any of that. The only discharge pipe, it takes this water and goes straight to the stream. So we don't have enough dilution water. The two easy solutions would be, one, to become a customer of Southwest Licking, who has a sewer pipe in our front yard at that water plant. We would just run a pipe to them, but we would have to connect to them at their capacity fees, and then we would have a monthly fee for that wastewater treatment they would do. The capacity fee, as of last year when I had the numbers run, capacity fee was $27,000, and every month was gonna be $2,500 for the usage that we would be giving them. The alternative that I kind of like more is what you see on this quick sketch in front of you. So this map, the bottom right-hand corner, if you follow the blue's the water lines, obviously. The bottom right-hand corner is water plant 2, which is where the wastewater has to come from. The red line is it's not even a proposal, it's just an idea of a sewer force main running from water plant 2 to the nearest point of our collection system, which is River Forest Lift Station, circled in red at the northwest corner of that red line. It would be an 1.5-inch pipe and some pumps that we would have to buy and put in, but that would take this wastewater and add it to our collection system, which would do the same thing Southwest Licking would do. It would be diluted down enough to where we wouldn't have to worry about it. Another benefit this gives us is it gets rid of a permitted discharge, which is always a plus. There's sampling and requirements that come with that. But the initial investment would be decent. I don't have numbers on it, but it would be expensive to do this. But I think in the long term, it would be less expensive than being a Southwest Licking customer for the rest of time. So it's a number, it's just a concept that I'm kicking around in my head. The EPA compliance department has been extremely understanding and very flexible with the fact that we get these sporadic high strontium readings. I don't want to bank on that lasting forever. So I think probably what I'm looking at doing is coming up with the price of a budget for this and adding it to our 5-year window. And then as long as we're not mandated to move it up, wait until that 5-year window hits. But at least we would have some kind of a number in case when our permit gets renewed, they say, enough, you have to do something now, which they are prone to do. So as of right now, we need to take no action at all, but this is just kind of where my head's at with trying to find a solution long-term for this problem.
How much would something like this cost?
So I do not know what the.
What's your distance? Do you have any idea?
I don't
have a scale on this.
I didn't do any of that. I can look that up and send it out to the committee, let you guys know the distance we're talking about, and then kind of run an estimate of linear feet.
Do you already have a generator at your well head, at the wet well or water plant?
Yes, there is a full-size generator there that would handle it no problem. River Forest Lift Station does not have a generator, but that is one of the CIP projects on this year. They're the next lift station to get one.
What pro tip? Yeah, next time, mark the map.
With some streets, I realize,
What streets are
I know
north,
exactly what these
north?
lines look like.
So Todd, this is Lions Park right here. High school sits, Watkins Old High School sits right down here.
Yes.
So
I was
this
trying
is,
to look for some sort of,
Yeah, it's an excellent point, Mr. Barstow. I gave you absolutely nothing to reference.
I mean, I
On
kinda
this
looked around, I was
picture.
looking at somebody over there, I mean,
Creek Road.
I was kinda
At the
looking
top
around.
left, you can see the green lagoons
Top left,
at the
top-
wastewater plant.
Top left of what?
That's
North.
yeah.
Todd,
That-
north, of course.
I
It's
know
up north,
exactly
yes.
what you did, and then partway through, you turned yourself, I was like, oh.
That's a-
North, of course.
That is an excellent tip. At least the north arrow, maybe a street name here and there that would probably help things out.
Okay.
Pro tip.
So I guess my personal opinion is I'm not ready to throw in the towel yet.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
What do you think about, I mean, this is obviously a very perplexing question.
It is.
It's a chemical and or water treatment question. What about, maybe enlisting some OSU students or somebody that's gonna really maybe have something, I'm not saying that they know any more than us, but at least we can make it into a very long-term university project. That they could look at it, they could
That's
study
an
it. they could-
Interesting concept. You mean almost like give the students the problem and say,
Yeah.
what do you
Why
guys
not?
think?
Give the engineers and the
Yeah.
chemistry
Why
dweebs,
not?
and give 'em a chance to.
That is an interesting concept, not one that I had thought of.
I mean, this is
I
one
mean,
that,
maybe they, yeah.
that I,
I'm
if
open
I
to
was a
anybody that
student,
can figure it out.
I mean, mean, this is something that would be very interesting to some, you know, as Todd said, an engineering student or even a chemical
Yeah.
student that
That is
could really, it's real life, you know, application.
I feel like University of Michigan is gonna be too far away, so I will go ahead.
You know,
and
I would vote for
We'll go ahead and
Michigan.
break down.
I'm
We
all
want,
about-
we want the
You want the-
advice, we would want the advice to be good, so we,
That's what I'm saying, yeah, Michigan.
that's why we wouldn't go to
That's
Michigan.
right, we go to Michigan.
And the engineering, yeah, that's okay.
They're really good at processing crap.
Yeah, and it's kind of an interdisciplinary issue.
It
because
is.
You've got the chemistry, biology aspect of it,
Absolutely.
and then you've got and how do we design something that fixes what the chemistry problem is?
Exactly.
So I think you might get some,
I think there would be interest, yeah, it's not something
You
I
know,
even
as
thought
long as we
about.
get the patent.
Yeah,
Okay.
right, as long as we get that at the end. We're definitely not gonna get that from OSU, but I'll call them anyway. That's fine.
Yeah, no, they'll take all rights. And your children. So, okay, well, anyhow, I'm gonna think about this some more too, cause there's something, we gotta figure this out.
Well, we've
I
been,
beat my head against the computer screen more than once trying to figure this thing out, but yeah, no, it's a great plan, it's another resource. All it takes is a phone call, so.
I think they would love to try to do something like this. Yeah, it's wonderful for a kid's resume.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
this school likes to, you know, boast that, so,
Absolutely.
okay. Any questions on this? Okay. All righty. Any other issues? Yes?
I do have one more, Mr. Walter. I just wanted to remind everybody that the interconnect bid that did come in was a little bit higher than what we had budgeted for 2 years ago. And we authorized that bid, but the first supplemental of the year will cover the difference in that fund. So we need 28,000 more as a whole, which is 14 from us, 14 from Southwest Licking. So I just wanted to remind everybody that that's coming, so that when the first supplemental comes, you all can remember what that was about. And that's all I have for other.
What are we talking about again? I'm just kidding. All right, committee, do we have any other issues you guys wanna talk about?
Nope.
All right, Mr. Icken, anything that you need to,
nope, I appreciate the idea about, reaching out to a college professional or college kids, and, that's one thing we hadn't thought about.
No,
so
not at all, yeah, it's a good idea.
I really like to be involved in that discussion, I'd just like to, I mean, there has to be an answer.
There's gotta be something.
There has to be.
Yep.
So, and I think the last time we talked about this, idea of running a force main and a pump up there, it was well north of $100,000.
Oh, I definitely agree with that,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it-
And I don't see it being
well,
less than $250,000.
Yeah,
to get done.
it was a big number.
Right.
So, and I'm sure it's fraught with problems to get there as well.
Everything in the ground is.
Everything in the ground is, that's exactly right. Okay, well, I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
I'll second that.
Kathy?
Walter?
Yes, please.
Manshire?
Yes.
Barstow?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Absolutely. Oh, when the sun goes down, it looks like the snow stopped.
It's actually supposed to get warmer.